Welcome to Don't Know Much About Football,
the podcast where football meets finance and foreign policy.
And the commentary comes with culture. With your co-hosts, Carlo Marcello,
Sarah Hamilton,
and Ian Stoner. Hey everybody, welcome back to Don't Know Much About Football. We are here for another interesting conversation with a fan of one of the major clubs in the Premier League. JP, you're here with us to talk about Manchester City. Welcome. How you doing?
Well, thank you for having me. Looking forward to the conversation.
Great. Well, glad to have you here. And I'm going to kick it over to Sarah, unless, Carlo, you wanted to jump in.
I thought, is this when we play the Darth Vader theme music?
Yeah.
Make sure put that
Imperial
in the
Death
show
March.
when we introduce
Yes.
JP, Imperial Death
we've
March.
licensed it.
Okay. I just want to make sure we're going to get that in there. Okay.
And for those who aren't viewing video of this, if we ever get our videos out, Sarah and Carlo have shown up with their delightful Anfield backgrounds just to intimidate JP. I have not been able to get my background to work, so I will work on that, and then it'll be 3 against 1. But Sarah, you know JP, you invited him on. Maybe you could tee up the conversation and introduce your friend.
Happy to. And, you know, despite our football differences, we are friends. So that tells you something. All things are fair in friendship and football, but friendship is the most important part. So yeah, this is my friend and longtime colleague, JP Valadez, whose office is across the hall from me. And we have been to, I don't know how many concerts together, been in the trench with various clients and other things that are probably best told at a pub. And one day, I like to watch sports in my office. And one day he walked in and was like, "Oh, you're watching soccer? Yeah? Do you have a team?" "Oh yeah, City." "Get out." But it's okay. It's fine. Everybody has their one flaw, and that may be his. But all kidding aside, that's a really sweet lid you're wearing. It's a really good looking hat, JP. So I think the first question is, well, one, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are and how you came to be here. And then also why City, how you came to have them as your club.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks again for inviting me on. This is fun. This is something that I've always really enjoyed. Soccer has not been like one of the first sports that I grew up with, being a Chicagoan, growing up in the height of the Bears and the Bulls and the Blackhawks and all of that stuff. And even the White Sox, which is my baseball team, which kind of brings me back to the City thing. But
yes, it does.
I got to this place in around in the late 90s when I was studying college. When I was in college, my roommate at the time, huge soccer fan, played through high school, played club ball, and it was always on. And he taught me a lot about it. I didn't know too much about the Premier or the Champions League, and so I really was just like, a sponge, kind of absorbing it all in. And this is the heights of Manchester United, when David Beckham was there in the late 90s, and I knew that was not my squad. Yep. He was way too pretty for me, and it was height of the Spice Girls and all that stuff. I'm like, that is just not my thing.
He did go to LA, to be fair, you know.
And I was kind of looking around, I love some of the Italian teams, the Spanish teams, but this is where it gets. I found myself focused in Wood City. Like I said, I'm a Southsider originally. I live in the Northwest Side now, but I am a diehard Southsider. I grew up in the southeast side of Chicago, in the shadows of the steel mills. I grew up in a working class family. My family came over here to work in the mills, and we are Chicago is home. It's in our blood, especially on the South Side. When that's why the White Sox are a big thing for us. We know they're bad right now. Well, but there are some positive things happening for them. But that's where we spend summers, is at Comiskey. And it's where we are all together with my family, my siblings, my friends, and we do a bunch of gatherings there. But that's kind of what I got to sort of look more at the Premier League and the difference between Manchester United and Man City. Man City felt more like the South Side team to me. They felt more like the White Sox in that space, where they're the working class team. They're an industrial town, very blue collar. And the thing that really hammered it home for me is this is another thing that Sarah may not like about me, is I'm a nerdy Oasis fan. Love them, like just beyond.
I didn't see that coming.
How many shows did you go to this summer?
I went to 4 shows this summer.
Yeah. Yeah.
2 in
Yeah,
Wembley,
respect.
1 in Chicago, 1 in New York. And like it's just love the band growing up. Always been a big thing. And then when this happened this past summer, it was just an incredible opportunity to spend some time with some friends and family and travel and just honestly have an incredible experience. So because of Oasis in the late 90s and because of the connection of the way I felt City was like to the White Sox is why I became a fan. And so it's been around for a while. I've enjoyed it. I'm a very casual fan up until recently when my son and I decided to buy the latest EA Sports Football Club game 26, where we have been battling nonstop.
Nice. Nice.
And it's been a lot of fun. So we watch it on the weekends now. I'm a little more in tune with it. I like loving what I'm seeing so far with this year's team. We got our struggles right now. We are still very old in the mid, but there has definitely been some positive things to look forward to. So that is how I found myself on the City side of Manchester.
So I'm going to jump in. I'm not going to get into an argument with you because I don't have skin in this particular game, because I think some people might disagree with your assessment of Man U versus City, but I'm more intrigued just by the kind of the point at which you became a fan and the reasons, and I think that's really interesting and legit, and also seems like you kind of you didn't just become a fan at the peak of City's glory days.
No, way before that.
You were way before. Whether you were a casual fan or not, you kind of had your identity, and I think that is legit, and so I appreciate that, and then also love the fact that you're getting into it with your kid. I've got to figure out how to get my daughter to be more passionate than she is, but
yeah, my boy is he's playing in 8th grade right now. He's playing defense. He likes it. He knows he's not the best on the squad, but he's out there having fun, and he's getting more.
Yeah, good.
And also he's growing into the game too. Like he's 13, so he's changing. So he's getting bigger and he's getting more physical, and has really sort of come to the point where he is actually more interested in the game as opposed to, oh, it's just something I'm going to do for an hour on a Saturday. So he's like I said, him and I are watching matches on the weekends now, and the video game has really increased his intensity. Like I got yelled at today, so we were playing.
Does he cheat, or is that just in Mario Kart?
He didn't cheat so far, although he did want to play a match today with no fouls on, no penalties. So it got there's a lot of tripping.
Must have got brutal. I mean, can you turn off? So in the EA Sports, can you turn off the VAR? Right, you can turn off the video assistant referee. Can you just is that something that they have in the EA Sports?
There's a couple of matches in there that you can set up that give you different things. Like one was like mystery ball, where depending on how many times the ball goes out of play, it changes the amount of points you could actually score on that specific ball in the game. So that's
fascinating.
One. And then there's one of them was penalties off, and it was just like a kind of like an arch rivals, kind of matchup we had going on there.
Amazing. JP, I want to jump in and ask about, if you could, you already said that City's kind of like the White Sox, to help other people sort of like get other bearings to like draw comparison. You know what I'm saying? Like it's college football season right now. It's also NFL's just started. If you could pick the American version of football, who's the City culture representing? I'm curious what you're going to say. Like, whatever's easier path to go, NFL or college. Where do you think their brand ports well to?
That's interesting. I don't know. Like it's a hard crossover. I guess if I'm picking my squad in the way I thought it, because of how it is, and the working class sort of idea would be the Bears.
Yeah.
Just how they sort of started off in their story. But also to Ian's point, maybe I'm off of the way I'm sort of evaluating the 2 Manchester teams, but that's just kind of how I felt they sort of came together for me.
I mean, I think you were coming in at a time when United was at its ascendancy, and
yes.
City was not the club that people think of today, and so that's going to have a different sort of add a different tinge to the thinking, and who knows if I'm not from Manchester. I just certainly haven't spent enough time in the city to have a perspective. So maybe there's aspects of that are legitimate, and of course, a city like Chicago or a city like Manchester are going to have different sections that will have different urban and working class communities, and so they're just going to bring different vibes that then you might connect to versus someone else who's, you know, coming in from the outside.
Totally. And like I said, for me, it was like because of the height that United was at that time when this was sort of going through, it did feel like City was, you know, the forgotten squad, right? And so and that's how us White Sox fans feel in the city, and rightfully so, you know, for good reason. But you know, that's kind of where we sort of come from.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the reason I think why United has so many fans. You know, like when at that point in the 90s, that was the only jersey you could buy. Like it was the only team that would, like, if anybody was on television here, it was them, because they were the, you know, they were the Yankees, they were the Cowboys, you know, like the team that was everywhere. So
and as you said, the star power, Beckham, and you know, maybe less internationally, but you know, certainly within the English or the UK, you've got players like Giggs, and there's Cantona, and all sorts of people who were, you know, huge.
But now, you know, City's not that club from that time, and neither is United the club from that time, right? And so now that things have changed, JP, is there like a different swagger to the way you think about being a City supporter? Do you know what I'm saying? Or are you still got the like, hey, we got the like little brother chip on the shoulder still, you know, like where's that?
I think that's probably gone. I will say the one thing that's different, it's a lot easier to get swag for the squad now because of, you know, how popular they are. I mean, but it is definitely different. I mean, and just the way they've evolved over the last few years, you know, last 5 years or so, when they've just been completely dominant, which has been a lot of fun to watch. And honestly, as a casual fan, really sort of brought me in even more because there's been so much to root for. As opposed to just kind of always trying to root with that chip on your shoulder. And I get that. I love that. That's kind of my personality. But like, it is also nice to root for a winner every now and again. As Sarah knows, Chicago fans, we don't get a lot of that. I mean, we still watch Bulls replays in my house from the 90s. Like, that's how it.
Bro, yo, they do that all over the world still. Okay. Yeah. Those are, you know, I grew up in the western suburbs of Chicago in the 90s. And so Sarah and I, and it sounds like you, we have a lot of similar sports memories along that front. And when Sarah and I first connected, you know, one of the reasons that I became a Liverpool fan, and you know, of course, friends had introduced me, that was helpful, but also like learning like, hey, you know, it's not like, they're not like the big club, at least at the time. They were already like, had started like, you know, it was a tough time. And not being the capital club from London, you know, not being New York City, not being the Yankees or the Mets, right? Not being that kind of market. And I was like, I like this Liverpool club that's out here as a working class club in this working class part of this country. You know what I'm saying? And after going to Liverpool, and I didn't get a chance to go to Manchester, I will say that. So I only had a chance to go to Liverpool when I was there with Sarah to watch my first Liverpool match in person. But I was like, yes, it has like the working class vibes aren't even vibes. It's just like literally just like, it's just like there for hundreds of years in the ground or something like that, you know? And so you really feel, and you're like, it's true. And of course now Liverpool and City have a lot more investment. I mean, look at, you know, the stadiums are up, right? The sponsorships and things like that. But you know, in the end, I understand why you're drawn to City at the time, given all the context. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, and the Liverpool, and this is where like it's different from being from the States, right? Like we're not from that territory, so like it is not blood. So like in high school, my brother went to London on vacation. And he traveled all around. He came back and he got me a Liverpool scarf, which I still have. And so like that was one like, oh, this is just like a big Beatles fan too. So like all kind of like came across, and like so this was great. And but at that time, you know, as we were talking about, it was hard to watch any matches that really weren't United. And so like it just never really developed until, you know, later on when I started getting into the City thing. And honestly, I'll go back to the FIFA thing because that is what really dragged us into it. Like in college, we would play like in between classes all the time. We all had our own teams. And because I was the silly guy picking City on like FIFA 98, I never had a chance to beat anybody at those times.
Respect. Okay. You hear this, man? FIFA, he's talking about old school Man City. You pick that squad, ladies and gentlemen. You pick that squad, you play it.
Just stuck.
Dedication.
Do you ever feel like you have to justify your fandom? Like, no, I'm not a new fan. Like, I'm not a new supporter. I've been with them, since they were nobodies, or,
Exactly.
not at the top of the world.
Yeah, it doesn't happen a ton because I don't think there's a lot of people that are overly invested in it. I think soccer, Premier League is still like, while it's obviously gained a lot of momentum in the States, it's still like, not a huge thing. So it's nothing more than a couple sentences that kind of go back and fix it, whereas like, they're great now, but it wasn't always as good, so, but just like, they're just fun to watch. It's another thing to really help like those casual rainy Sundays and Saturday mornings, to, put them on and sort of have a cup of coffee and sit down with the family and watch a match.
And JP, like this year's squad, who are some of the players that get you excited, you and your son excited watching, playing, and help out a little description for the listening audience, of course.
Yeah, so the younger players on the squad, I think, are incredibly talented. Like Phil Foden, I think is just a stud in the mid. But the person who I have just been infatuated with this season has been Jeremy Doku. He's just so fast with the ball.
Yeah,
like he can really just sort of change. He's changed a couple of the matches the way they've gone this year by using his speed and his ball control. Now he does get a little OC because of it, but I mean he's just been able to work the line and get the ball in and have some solid crosses over to Haaland, who is just a beast. I mean that guy is just absolutely incredible. But watching Doku play this year has been a lot of fun. He's had a couple of matches like the the City match. I'm sorry, the City United match early this year when City just really dominated them and really kind of showing how bad United is right now, how they're just really struggling at the moment. There was a couple of plays where Doku just took over running the side and just like watching him move with the ball is an incredible thing. And
that is an understatement. It is. Yeah. That is absolutely true. I with another guest of the show, Kirsten, I had a chance to see him play for the Belgian national team for some of the Euro finals.
Kirsten was on the Belgian national team? Sorry.
Right, that's what I thought too.
Sorry, yeah,
wow.
Sorry. We're just watching. Sorry, again, but he reminds me the way that he's able to like dribble past people, and I'll call it a crossover, to like help people who maybe not be familiar, but in a way he reminds me of like a crossover dribble in basketball, the way he's like breaking ankles, like just shifting his hips to and fro. Okay, this guy's shifting his hips faster than anybody, and then just like seems to be able to like do what Tim Hardaway did back in the day and just cross people over and just blow right by them. It is phenomenal. It's phenomenal to watch. It really is.
He kind of reminds me of Robin a little bit. Like the way his speed and his trickery.
You mean like Robin?
No, Robin.
R and Robin, of course. Bayern Munich, Robin.
Yeah.
I thought we were talking about players. And
he is impressive to watch. Like he's fast and just you're right. His ball skills, especially in tight spaces, and then he plays with his head up too, so he can pick out the guy that is open. Usually it's Haaland, but yeah, it's something, and it's dangerous.
Yeah, he had one run. I think it was the United match. It might have been the one after that where, it looked like the ball was almost kind of like glued to his foot, the way he was kind of moving it around and just like split three defenders and went right up and just put in the corner. It was just like, it looked like a video game. Like that's coming back to the video game, but it really did look.
He does make it look like that. It's amazing. Switching gears a little bit, JP, I wanted to ask about, you've had a manager, Pep Guardiola, been the manager for City for a really long time. I'm looking at Sarah if she's going to throw any fingers up at me. How long is it? 6, 7 years? 8?
I don't know. I'm gonna have to look.
He's the longest serving. I believe he's the longest serving Premier League manager, right? I think he might be.
That sounds about right. Everybody else has been fired. So he's been with City since 2016.
2016. This and
9 years.
This is in a business where people are getting fired left and right. So JP, nothing lasts forever. What happens after Pep? Like what do you see happening after Pep? What do you want to see?
Well, given his extension, like I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. But like it is possible. We don't know. Like to Sarah's point, like people get fired all the time. Like, if they don't turn this around, this year and have another sort of weak season where like they did last year where they just fell apart, questions are going to pop. But the day Pep walks away or gets let go from the squad is going to be a total culture shift because he has got that team. Like they are embodying him as a player, right? And that's what they do out there. So I don't know that a person like that can be replaced in the same way. I think it'll just be a different team, a different culture. It could be like a complete teardown at that point once he goes away, because you're going to have different types of players to play that game. Because I don't know who comes in and coaches the squad the same way as he does. But I mean, that man lives and breathes that team. I mean, it does feel like he's on the field because he wants to be out there still. But it's another thing that I find really exciting about that squad, and that just he's the culture of the team completely, and if he's gone, then I think that changes completely.
You're right. He's absolutely engaged 100% in the match all the time on the sidelines, whether he's sitting or standing, and you can just see his mind working all the time, right?
It looks good in the parka too.
There you go. Yeah.
Or those sweaters. He's always wearing one of those, like some sort of heavy sweater. Yeah. I wonder if he would I could see him doing what Klopp did and just, despite the extension, just saying, I'm done. I can't, because of his heart and soul. You can see it. It's in every match. Like, he could just burn out. I don't know.
Totally. And I think that could happen if, they were to do it again. If they were to win Premier and Champions. And I think that would be sayonara.
Yeah, he'd probably want to go out on a high note, I would guess. But 10 years is also a good brand number.
Very good run.
JP, because I know like a little bit about your professional background, let's say Pep, has to move on and he's taking like a little sabbatical from football like Jurgen Klopp. And, Jurgen Klopp has done the Trivago commercial. You may be familiar that he's doing that. What commercial is Pep Guardiola doing, JP, post-City? What brand is he representing? If you were his agent, what brand would you try to get him to start sponsoring, to be like, oh, Pep's doing this now?
Well, I think Puma is probably the easy one, right? Just because of like what's on the unis and everything. But I think if Pep's going to step away and I'm his agent, I'm going to let him be for a moment so he doesn't let me go. And going to just sort of support him in whatever he wants to do for that next year or so. And given like how much fun he had at those Oasis shows this past year, I could see him going on tour with the band as well next year.
Oh my God, he was like, those videos of him. It was like it like just pure joy, like unfiltered. It was awesome.
Okay, so that must be on YouTube or somewhere else for people to look up. Okay,
you'll see it
in Oasis. Okay,
and they actually have a cutout of him on stage.
Yeah.
So where you'll see it behind the amps, there's a Pep cutout. And then when they played Mexico City, they put a sombrero on him during the set, and it was just amazing. And the number of people that text me that photo of Pep, and Liam wearing the sombrero with Pep next to him in the cutout, it was more than a lot.
Amazing.
So what do you think? You mentioned the double in the Champions League, Premier League, Champions League. Obviously, that was a bit of an albatross around their neck for a while, winning the Champions League. They finally did it. What do you think their odds are this year?
Hard to say. Like, they look better right now than I thought they were going to be. I do worry about the midfield. It's very old. But like, that's when things went south last season was when Roger got hurt, and they just, the tempo of the team just sort of disappeared when he went down. They couldn't stop anybody. And it felt like that team could play 60, 65 minutes of a match. But the rest of it just was not helping out, which is what makes me worried about this team right now, because the last two matches they played, they got the lead, they made their subs, and they went full defense for like the last, at least half of the match. And while I know the last one, they were definitely like a more talented team, and they were just kind of giving people time off, and they felt comfortable at it, but they were a couple mistakes away from blowing that, and they almost did. And if you're going to keep doing that, it's going to catch up to you, and I worry about that with them. So we'll see what happens, with the next match this weekend. I think it's against Everton, I think it is. But we'll see what type of squad comes out there. But if they're going to keep transitioning to this, score early and play defense for the last 70 minutes of the match, that usually doesn't add up well. So I feel right now, Sarah, to your question, like they feel better right now than they did last year if they can stay healthy. And the midfield does worry me a bit because of how old and how slow they will eventually get throughout the season. But I think having Doku up front with Holland, and then guys like Foden playing mid, who's really almost like another forward out there, it is a pretty potent set of forwards and strikers up front. So they've been pretty exciting to watch.
So you mentioned earlier that you like to sit with a cup of coffee in the family and watch. Is that how you typically will watch a match, or do you ever get out to watch with other folks from the neighborhood?
I have not yet. There's a couple of city bars that I saw. I just haven't gone over there yet. I'm not saying it's not my scene or not my thing. I think I would do it if I had a couple other friends of mine that wanted to go and sort of check it out. But I'm hoping that maybe next season I can find myself out in Manchester to go to a match. Hopefully time it around like a concert out there too, so you can sort of really take it all in. But that would be something that I would absolutely love to do. I've actually never been to a soccer match, Chicago Fire or anything. So it's definitely something that I want to fix because it's,
Let's
We'll
do
have
it.
to go.
Sarah,
Let's
you're
do
not
it. We'll
really
have to go.
your friend out here. You need to take
I know.
bars
This
and
is my failure to do
stadiums,
this.
various locations.
No, but
Oh,
we were
man. Yeah.
my son Jacob and I were talking about it the other day. He goes, "How come we haven't gone?" I'm like, that is a great question. Like we should.
You should fix that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why don't we switch gears for a little bit, and we can maybe come back and sort of summarize where we think the season's going. But this is more of a general conversation, if that works for Carlo and Sarah. Sarah, you'd shared an article from The Athletic highlighting some research that showed 27,440 gambling messages evident during the opening Premier League weekend throughout all matches, which includes every player with some company's logo on their shirt, but also all the other ways in which it's evident. And this despite legislation that's meant to keep that off screen, primarily, I think, or in large part to protect kids from exposure to
Right.
The influence of advertising for gambling. So this is just an open conversation, and JP, I'll share the link with you in the chat, but just curious what folks thinks, what your reaction to that is, and is that something that we should be paying more attention to?
Yeah, it's there in the chat. Yeah, and the crazy part is that 27,000 plus, that's only in the UK. That doesn't even take into account what we saw here, what folks on other continents saw. So it's a lot. And I think, I was talking with Brian earlier after I read the story, and it's like when you watch sports here in the US, it's like the only ads you really see are for drug adverts or gambling. And I don't really see any other ones. And I suppose there's also the revenue stream that comes with the gambling. But we've talked about it here before on the podcast, gambling in sports and kind of all that goes into that, and the kind of the downstream effects, especially when it comes to player abuse. But this story for me was like, it was so eye-opening because the number's huge, and that's only in the UK. And I don't know where we go from here. I know that the front of shirt gambling sponsor ban starts next season. And those of us here, we're supporters of two clubs that don't have a gambling provider as a front of shirt sponsor. But I think it's a question, right? And not just in football, but in all sports. Like, where do we go? Is this just the norm, or is it the new smoking? I'm not sure.
It feels more like the norm at the moment, just because of what comes with it. And so going beyond like the gambling part of it on the uniforms, but like in the States, as you know, Sarah, it's everywhere. Like it's part of your team now. Like if you have a stadium, if you have the space, you're putting a sports book in there.
Yeah.
And it just becomes part of the revenue that you bring in. It's no different than any other concession, at the facility now. And it's just part of how people are expanding. And this is another thing that is making lots of teams look at new venues, regardless if they need them or not. So they have that space to turn it into an entertainment center, which, eventually they will have some sort of sports book or, gambling facility a part of it. It's like, and if you just look at in the States, look at how Vegas is struggling right now because nobody's going to Vegas to gamble anymore. You do it at home. Vegas is struggling with hotel occupancy right now worse than they've been during the pandemic. And this is my guess is that this is just part of it because you don't have to go there to put bets on a team going into the football season or any other season. There you can just do it at home. Except in Illinois, where you cannot bet on your local college teams. That's how we're protecting the kids.
Darn right. It's a low bar.
Just to add some more stats here, I'm just reading off of the article here. In the Saturday evening game that weekend, the match between Wolverhampton Wanderers and Manchester City was found to have an average of 22 ads per minute. And during the TV commercial period, during the first whistle and the final whistle of the match, over 13,200 messages came through, which is a 32% rise on the previous year, despite that being banned.
So here's a question for you, Ian, because you grew up in Scotland where, you can walk down the hill or down the street to William Hill or Ladbrokes or whatever. It's normal, right? Here, growing up, you had to go to Vegas or you had to have a bookie, and one of the two. Do you think, what's your impression of all of this? Does it strike you as overwhelming, or is it just kind of like, hey, get way of the world?
I have to caveat this with noting that I grew up in Scotland, but I was also the son of a Presbyterian minister, so who did not gamble.
So you didn't have a bookie then? Didn't
have a secret gambling habit, but or at least as far as I know. But yes, it was there, and we had obviously cigarettes being advertised and other in gambling. I don't remember the rules. Gambling didn't seem like a big dominant thing. It feels much more pervasive now, wherever you go. But it just was. To me, the local bookie was just a place where I saw people go that I didn't identify with or never thought, oh, that's a place I want to go. There was never any appeal to me. It always looked a bit sad. And with that earlier caveat, maybe it's because I had been taught the evils of gambling at a young age from the pulpit or something. But I think my impression, and again, I could be wrong, is just it wasn't necessarily something that was commonly appreciated or supported by the average person. And that seems to have changed significantly now. And I think it's the rise of online gambling and just the access to it. But then, when the national lottery came in when I was growing up, and that was when that was a big deal, because then you didn't just go to the bookies. It sort of normalized it, where many of the people that you knew, if not most, would be getting a lottery ticket. And so, I had family members who played the national lottery, and that was seen as a sort of harmless sort of game, basically. And they
benefit the kids.
To benefit the kids, but in the UK, it was actually the funds go to all sorts of different charities, and so a lot of good has been done through national lottery grants. I have a much harder time processing the lottery and Powerball and stuff in the US because, first of all, the sums are just enormous. The billboard on the freeway when I drive around here, and I use it as a mental math exercise as I'm driving. What are the two big numbers adding up to? Is it over $1 billion yet? But that funding in theory goes to education. I guess it does, but I'm just not convinced that it's having as big of an impact as it could. So, end of sermon, but it feels like a bigger deal, a bigger problem, and significant. I don't know if it's just quantitatively different. It feels qualitatively different to kind of the impact of gambling in sports growing up.
Well, the gambling, betting, prediction markets now, financial markets, like these things have long supported sports. Right, a lot of our stadiums are named after financial institutions. We here in Los Angeles, it's now crypto.com arena, right, to normalize, alternative assets right? And branding. And so to me, especially since the prediction markets on the legality side seem to be moving forward, sports betting is going to look banal, compared to being able to bet on, who, anyways, to be able to bet on anything that's not even sports. So I think that is what that extreme, I think, is making the sports betting just look like a revenue stream you have to capture. And in the past, JP, we've talked about, like, how does this, is there pressure on the athletes and the referees? Like, how does the pressure start getting to them? Because the money in the system is getting so big, right?
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, just, maybe
That's
just
an
some
interesting
reaction
question.
to that.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, because I think most people probably don't connect the pressure of the athletes on it versus the wagers, because it just kind of feels different. But I think you brought up an interesting point about the refs, who are the target no matter what game it is, no matter like what the line is, they're always going to be a target.
Yep.
And just the pure, skepticism that people have when it comes to officiating in general. Like, every game is rigged because their team didn't win, or someone got a foul or something like that. I mean, just look at the WNBA playoffs. It's been the whole theme of the entire playoffs right now.
Yeah.
Is that the officiating has been so poor.
So bad. Yeah.
And then how many stories do we have, how many 30 for 30s have been made about somebody, taking, a bribe, and all that. So it is hard to disconnect. I think the more that this continues to go on and it becomes more popular, there will be pressure on the players. And we're starting to see some of that happen, right? Like, there have been a couple of stories in the NBA about players who, may have been in on, some wagering. A couple of those stories come out, they've been sort of walked back because the facts were a little inconsistent on it. But, like, it doesn't have to be true for it to be a problem, right? It just needs to exist. The conversation needs to be out there. And the more that conversation is out there, the more skeptical people will be about it. And then we enter a phase of, like, what kind of entertainment is this now? Like, are we still getting, the value of going to watch a game? Am I getting an honest match in front of me right now? Or is it just something else? Like, I don't think we're there yet. I know I don't feel that way when I go to games, even despite when my teams are getting blown out, or they can't hit, or just strike out every time. But I blame the coaches on that one.
I don't know much about baseball, but I think it's really interesting that we're getting this strong perspective from a White Sox fan. But
There is an irony.
I've got
there.
thoughts.
There is an irony. But I agree with you, and I think that what's the goal here? And if it's a revenue stream, I think I'm getting more small L libertarian in my old age, and more sort of live and let live in certain things. But when it's so closely tied, and from what I'm understanding now, just sort of built into the very structure of the building of the stadium, that creates a different feel. And if it's supposed to be a place you take your kids, and if you take your kids, if somebody takes their kid to the game and then they leave them in their seat and they just go off and gamble and drink, that doesn't seem very seemly. But I think it's in this story, and I think it's a thread that runs through a lot of these conversations. It's just the excesses, and there are regulations in place, and yet they're not being enforced, or the sort of desire, the push for the sport to regulate itself just always falls flat. I would never take anyone seriously if they tried to claim that in any context, really. Especially when the stakes are this high and it's as organized as this. It's just, you're going to end up, with what we have here, where the rules are being flouted, and there are games, whether they're being fixed or all sorts of other scandals happening on a regular basis.
There's just too much money involved, I think, to regulate yourself. That's why I think that's why I asked if it's like the new smoking. When we were all growing up, there were smoking ads all the time on TV. I mean, Joe Cool with Camel. Yeah, Totally cool. The Marlboro Man. We don't have that anymore. I wonder if eventually we'll get there. But now it's like, yeah, gamble from your phone and do, spend your life savings. It's very interesting. And and then it starts to raise the questions. like if you ever watch ESPN on a Sunday with Scott Van Pelt, he has bad beats, which is all about gambling and all about, like, oh, this guy missed a field goal at the buzzer, which, they were favored by X, but they didn't cover. So then you lose, like Holland missed a penalty the other day. Like you could start to conspiracy theorists, like, did he do that on purpose? No, but those questions start to creep in. It's interesting. I don't know.
Yeah,
And you don't get an opportunity to sort of, drift away from it either, because as you're watching any contest, NFL, NBA, Premier League,
yeah,
they're broadcasting the odds during the game.
right.
Like 40 minutes in, like, the pregame odds is switched from, this to this. And so they're trying to encourage more people to bet during the time. And I think the more it's in your face, or in your ears, the more it becomes harder to disconnect from it all, which inevitably make people think, well, who is really on the up and up here? And then we can't forget like the whole Shohei Ohtani stuff that happened recently too, specifically with his translator and all that. So it's hard. Like, I don't feel like the games are jaded yet. And I say yet, in lowercase at the moment. But because it just doesn't feel that way. But, you'd be kind of naive to think that there isn't, a path here, but just make this a little harder to watch and believe in, I guess.
And I believe we touched on this before, but I think the fact that we all have devices in our hands where we can access, apps that supercharge this, and as we know from the impact of social media, especially on developing brains, I think there's just a huge problem that we have to acknowledge, and I think strongly ties all of this back to your point, Sarah, about cigarettes and the addictive nature and the health consequences of the sort of convergence of gambling in sports and sort of algorithmically powered apps, of which gambling is one category.
Yeah, for sure. I think so while we're speaking about, money in sports, et cetera, I have a question that is it's not an elephant in the room, but it is a bit of one. JP, what are your thoughts about nation state money in football?
Not good. It's money in the sports is it's hard to sort of disconnect from the good and the bad in this. And I know the ownership with City is troubling, but it's not just them. There's just so many other organizations and all sports that have sketchy ownership, difficult. And while it's definitely something to keep in mind, I try not to let that sort of influence my fandom here, because it's entertainment for me. It's enjoyable. But like the day that it does shift where, those things do go in a terrible direction, or, it'll I may have to sort of move on from something too. So it could be hard for me to ignore that, Same reason why I just can't watch live golf, because it's just so, it's a bad product, but also they all jumped for that coin.
Big time. And yet they all tried to make it about something else. Just own that it's about the money.
Yeah. When Phil Mickelson's your spokesman, you're on a bad start.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting perspective, because it's hard. It would be hard to walk away from your team, your club, because of ownership. But yeah, if there's a line crossed, that's hard.
Yeah,
also, if there's unlimited dollars, that's really hard for others to compete.
Like I said, it's across the board too. Wasn't there a rumor Elon Musk was looking at buying Liverpool early too, and it's just it's hard. I'm curious if that were to happen, just knowing you, Sarah, how your reaction would have been to all that if I were to come through. It's hard to disconnect. I think to me it feels like it's one of those things where you have to keep in the back of your mind, and we all have a line, and if that line gets crossed, then it's just sports end of the day.
That's right. And there are other places to find entertainment if it doesn't align with your values as a human. Yeah, totally.
In addition to nation state money at City, I just, for the record, there are other firms. Silver Lake, an American investment firm, is a minority investor. There's also a Chinese group. So, but it looks like the main investing group, Abu Dhabi United Group, has got 81% stake.
So you don't have to worry about a gambling front of shirt sponsor for a while.
Yeah.
There's silver linings.
Recently the United States government has been investing, in all kinds of interesting things, right? We took a 10% stake in Intel recently. So that's all of us here now, American citizens. So, but if we were going to do
Tips
that
are
for
in
a
the mail.
football club, I would want to have a vote on it. I wouldn't want just like America picking some random football club in it, in England to invest in. That's all I have to say.
Everything that's done right now is seemingly random here. So who knows?
Yeah.
Don't know. Well, this has been really fun. Thank you, JP, for joining us and for walking us through your journey. That's cool. I had no idea that your fandom started when you were in college.
Yeah. A lot of it goes to my roommate, Jeff, at U of I, who just sort of had it on all the time, and we always talked about it. And then I started playing intramurals and college and just had a blast. And it's always been a fun thing. But also, I was always been a hockey fan too. And it is kind of the same.
Similarities.
Yeah. So it was easy for me to understand it. Like trying to explain offsides to my son, a little difficult, but it's easy for me to sort of understand it.
Clearly something went wrong because you had a Liverpool scarf at an early age. So I think we need to examine what happened there.
Something
or just see it as an omen for when you do decide to finally switch allegiances when you're lost, and then you'll just have something to hand to just cover up your shame and your guilt.
Something to wipe away the tears. Understand?
Exactly.
Well, JP, there's still a season ahead of us. We play, Liverpool plays Man City, I think in just like 2 match weeks or 3. I mean, it's coming up.
It's in November, I believe.
Any prediction on that? Any prediction on that match that's coming up? Liverpool City, the first one at least?
Well, I mean, I'm going to go City, obviously. But, I will be watching it, and hopefully Sarah and I will remain friends afterwards.
Oh,
all right,
always.
we'll text. Yeah. We'll text. Excellent.
Yeah. I'm just trying to find the date for that one. I can't. It's going to be November 9th.
Oh, yeah, that's soon.
8:30 Pacific, 10:30 Central. Tune in. It's at the Etihad. So we'll see what happens. But until then, JP, thanks for joining us again. And have a great week, everyone. Take care.
Yeah, cheers.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you all so much for having me. I had a great time tonight. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
That's a wrap for this episode of Don't Know Much About Football, the podcast for all fans, new and seasoned, who want to grow the sport and learn together.
If you like our podcast, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen, and support us on Patreon. Your feedback and support grow our community.
If you're a part of a club, league, or fan community and want to be featured, reach out via our social media or our website at don'tknowmuchaboutfootball.com.
Thanks for joining our journey. Tune in next week for more passionate football stories.
Until then, keep the football spirit alive.